this video we will be installing the Airride kit from Ferrell Custom Trucks. This kit is designed for 389 and 379 Peterbilts. These kits come pre-assembled with the exception of the optional springs. These springs are only needed if your truck did not come with Airride from the factory. Starting off with the unboxing, we're going to reference the installation manual and run through the list of parts that are supplied, making sure everything is there and accounted for. You have your U-bolts, your shims, your airbag assembly itself, which includes the shock, the leveling valve, the bags, the bag plates, etc. And then you'll have your new spring pin bushings. And if requested, you will also have some airbag spacers to help with the clearance of the oil pan on CAT models, or if you just prefer to have a little bit higher ride height. Before starting on the installation, you'll want to disconnect your batteries as well as chock the rear wheels to keep the truck from moving back and forth while working on it. Disconnect the rear leveling valve and dump the air out of the rear bags. Moving to the front of the truck, we'll jack up the front axle to get the tires off the ground. Afterwards, we'll install the weight-approved jack stands behind the rear spring hangers. We start off by removing the rear spring shackles as well as the shocks and bump stops. Next, we remove the factory U-bolts and rear spring hangers. These shims will be replaced with the supplied brass shims in the kit. When removing the front of the spring, you will need to remove the clevis for the spring pin. This step is highly advised to be done using 2 people, as you would need someone from the top to hold the bolt and someone from the bottom to take the nut off in order to get it loose and uninstalled. Of course, this step isn't necessary if your truck came with Airride from the factory. Moving on, we will install the new springs. And again, to get the clevis back on properly, this is highly advised to be done using 2 people. Now it is time to remove the lower bag plate from the airbag assembly so you can install it on the new springs. At this point, it was time to move to the other side and repeat the same steps. After removing the old springs, we realized that the spring pin bushings were seized inside the springs themselves, which brought to light the importance of keeping everything lubricated and greased properly, being as the Airride kit causes the springs to move much more than a factory spring normally would, which further supports why you need these aftermarket springs to function well with the Airride kit. Here we're showing how the pin is supposed to be aligned on the spring clamshells. For either side, it goes on the outer rearmost position. With the new springs installed on either side, it's time to mount the new spring hangers. With the new springs installed, we can install the brass caster shims between the spring and the axle itself, as well as tighten down the U-bolts to 385 foot-pounds. With the lower bag plate installed, it's time to move on to drilling your holes in the frame for the upper bag plate. Using the drill template, you will rest it against the front of the frame horn as shown on either side. Keeping the bottom level with the underside of the frame, you will want to clamp it down, double and triple checking its position. The 5 holes on the bottom are going to be used for the upper bag plate mount. The first larger hole after that will be for your airline. The middle large hole will be for your ABS line grommet. The large hole on the top will be for your new shock stud. Mine was a non-Airride truck from factory, so location is a little bit off, so we will need to refill that and drill out a new hole. With everything marked and centered properly, you can start drilling your new holes. With the new holes drilled, you can now install your upper bag plate assembly. At this point, you will want to leave the airline fittings loose, as you will wrap them with Teflon tape before install. You may now bolt the bottom of the bags to the lower bag plate. This is where we went through all of our airline fittings and wrapped them with Teflon tape, as well as bolted down the top bag plate. When tightening airline fittings, you will want to make sure they are oriented in the correct position, but not over tightened. Bolt on your new upper shock mount bracket. With the passenger side complete, we move on to the driver's side. It is recommended to use 2 wrenches when tightening airlines, so you can tighten the fitting side of the airline while holding the line itself in place, so it keeps the line from twisting and creating damage. The air manifold for each side goes 6 inches behind the upper bag plate. With the airbag assembly finished, we moved on to mounting the 3-position switch inside the cab. Above the cup holder is usually recommended so it stays out of the way and won't get accidentally bumped. For the supply line going to the switch, we tapped into the air tank using the supplied fitting. Removing the glove box allows us to route the supply air line through the existing grommet into the 3-position switch. With the supply line finished, you will route the other 2 air lines from the switch to the air management valve assembly. This assembly is mounted to the radiator support utilizing the factory holes. You will need to refer to the instruction manual for proper airline routing. With the air system finished, you may remove the front jack stands, reconnect the rear leveling valve, and air up the system. For trucks with Cat engines, you will need to add an optional spacer or modify the oil pan itself for proper clearance from the axle when the suspension is dumped. Set the ride height to 6.5 inches, measuring the rear bag from the top of the bottom bag plate to the bottom of the top bag plate. The most distinguishing feature on this kit is obviously the use of 4 custom-built airbags. The heavy-duty aluminum upper and lower plates, combined with the narrow diameter of the airbag itself, is what separates these from any other bag being used on the market today. These bags eliminate the common failures associated with pinched or punctured airbags, as they do not contact anything while deflating like others do. The upper and lower mounting plates are constructed of aluminum instead of plastic and feature a built-in bump stop as well. These bags are designed exclusively for J. Ferrell custom trucks, and replacements can only be bought through them. Be sure the spring pin bushings are greased and the switch is operating properly before taking the truck on a test drive. After the test drive, you will need to retorque the bolts to 385 foot-pounds, and then again after the first 200 miles. Showing in real time, this is the airbags at full deflate going up to the ride height. Once ride height is reached, we will bump it up to the over-inflate position. This position is intended to be used in low gear off-road only. And now back down to the dump position. You should never drive the truck with the airbags deflated, as this may cause damage to the driveline as well as other critical components. Fender and ground clearance may vary based on your setup. For reference, this truck is using a 22.5 11R tire with an 18-inch bumper and no drop axle. Thanks for watching, and please follow J. Ferrell Custom Trucks on Facebook and Instagram.